Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is Friday, January 27th, episode 266, and it's Gavin and I again. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm Gavin Ashton, and it's the 27th of January.
All right, we have one of our favorite Englishmen. He used to be Queen of the Chaplain, but we're going to get into that in a minute. I was watching Fox News, and it's Gavin, it's my dude. And I've seen lots of people from the Church of England on Fox News, and that's not a normal occurrence here in America, unless, of course, some strange news happened. Let's talk specifically about you. Last time we spoke, you were a chaplain to the Queen of England, or a chaplain to the throne. You get to wear scarlet colors. It comes with a special title, some special duties. You're no longer a chaplain to the Queen.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 says there is a time for everything. And apparently the time for me to be a chaplain to the Queen is now over. Okay. So yes, I wake up, I resigned, Kevin, on a matter of principle. They might have pushed me, they didn't. But we agreed that the things that I wanted to say about the gospel, about the faith, were becoming sources of embarrassment to the establishment. It's not easy for people outside England to understand that the Queen is not just a person; she's an idea. She's a whole constitutional.
It's an idea. She's an office.
She's an office. Exactly.
The presidency here is an office.
Yeah, right. So behind the office, you have bureaucrats. Mm-hmm. And the bureaucrats have views. The bureaucrats can be lent on by other bureaucrats in other palaces or offices. And so the bureaucrats were getting increasingly uncomfortable, not just with this issue about the Quran being read in the cathedral, but I'm told I've been outspoken now for some time. And they were finding my outspokenness on behalf of the gospel difficult.
Now, I've seen headlines that say you quit the Church of England, that you demanded the Queen quit, that, the headlines across American England are all different depending on the periodical you're reading. What's the truth here?
I choose my words very carefully. I once trained as a lawyer. I like words. I think they can work very well for you if you befriend them. The truth is that I've invited the Provost of Glasgow Cathedral to apologise to Christians who suffered at the hands of Muslims, because I think Western clergy in their comfort have a responsibility towards other Christians who suffer for their faith. That's part of being the body of Christ. I've resigned from being a chaplain to the Queen, and I think my interpretation of the way our culture is developing is that the Church of England is accommodating itself more and more to a secular culture. We may find that that's a common theme in the later part of this conversation we have. I guess I have to consider my position with the Church of England. It's in a process of change. There are different ways of being an Anglican. The Church of England is not the only way, and as it continues in a heterodox direction, away from some of the basic teachings in the Bible and Holy Tradition, many of us are going to find we can't go with it. So I'm at a particular crossroads. I'm praying and thinking about how I can best serve my Lord in the Church.
Are you still in the Church of England?
Kevin, I don't know how you can leave it.
I just want to be sure.
There is no.
I remember these headlines. I read it. I said, I got to ask Gavin about this. I got to be sure we get this down.
The thing about the Church of England is it doesn't seem to have any way of leaving it.
Okay,
It doesn't.
Right,
you can't kind of send in a card, an identity card, saying I quit at this point. Yeah. I think actually what you have to do is you have to in fact sign up for an act of Parliament called the Clergy Disability Act, written in 1880, which allows you then to distance yourself from church. Anyway, you don't want to go there.
Well, over the last 50 years, I've only been paying attention for 20. Over the last 20 years, I've noticed it's impossible to be defrocked in the Church of England. So there's not much you can do. Okay.
No, but you can't even leave it. I mean, at least not easily. It's very difficult.
Okay, on to the Church of England. Let's talk about a report that came out this morning talking about sexuality. It's kind of a report from the House of Bishops. And basically, I've read 60 pages that tell me nothing.
So that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
You see how successful it's been because the House of Bishops set out to do as little as they possibly could, and to do as close to nothing as possible, whilst doing something. Mm-hmm. So the nothing they've done is they haven't changed doctrine. They make a great play of saying we still believe marriage is between a man and a woman, but what we want to change is the culture. So the changes are going to be in the way in which we expand an even greater welcome to the homosexual community than we've ever done before. I don't know how you chart this or how you make people be more welcoming. I mean, just by saying it doesn't actually make it happen. But anyway, that's what they're saying. I guess they're trying to change the climate of it by saying it. And then they say, we want to express this welcome in the way we say our prayers for gay couples. And we're not quite sure that giving people private latitude to pray for them, which we've done already, is enough. So the House of Bishops promises us some liturgies in the future at some time. Well, that'll be interesting. That will be a change. We can look at that. And then they say there's another change. We don't think it's fair to ask people who want to become priests specific questions about their sex life. I didn't know they were asking specific questions already, and I really hate to go there.
What could they ask?
Out of my mind. But what they're clearly trying to do is to ask general questions about general ethics rather than ask anything that would hold people accountability for the way in which they express intimate affection. So, that's, as changes go, that's, if you like, stepping back from some of the higher standards of ethical responsibility in terms of sexual behavior. But basically, it's close to don't ask, don't tell, which is what people have been saying. So, those are the changes. Well, they really don't amount to very much. But what does it mean?
Right. Well, I mean, in my understanding of the context of the gospel, it's to identify the difference in the church versus society, and not translate itself to society, but bring society into the church for redemption.
Okay, I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's
okay,
exactly.
So I got it right. Okay,
brilliant.
My Sunday school teacher's going to be so happy.
I wish I could have said it like that. I will say it like that, as the Oscar Wilde joke goes. Looking back through history, one can look at the way in which church and cultures relate to each other. And basically, three things happen. Either the church converts the culture. That's how we got Christian Europe. That's what we're supposed to do. Or the culture converts the church, which is what's happening to the Church of England at the moment. Or there's a kind of standoff. Yeah. You can't quite see which way things are going because sometimes things sort of tread water. And now what's happening behind this report, the critical thing is we're in a period at the moment where the Church of England is being converted by the secular culture. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, that's its great frailty. I wrote at some point that part of the problem of belonging to the Church of England is that you belong to a church whose greatest ambition is to be chaplain to a self-referential, hedonistic culture. Please let us be your religion.
Right.
This is not a dignified way of following Jesus. It's not a dignified way of doing the church. We have a higher ambition, which is the kingdom of heaven. But that brings us to the Welby heresy. And I think Justin Welby...
I'm feeling uncomfortable, but you said it.
Well, dear Justin Welby, for whom I pray, I mean, he's just in the most awful position. And he's doing as best he can, given his principles. But I'm afraid I think his principles are really badly flawed. His principle is conciliation. That's his kind of trademark gift. It's what he was spotted for and brought up for. And like all gifts, of course, it has its place unless it becomes extreme. So conciliation has become, if you like, the extreme ethic in the Church of England. And in the report talks about the kingdom of heaven happening when people with the most diverse opinions get to walk along the road together, hand in hand, whistling something cheerful from the Sound of Music or the Wizard of Oz or something. The very fact that we are together is the kingdom of heaven. Now, this actually is heresy. It's error. It's unbiblical. It's wrong. And it's this particular heresy that will allow the Church of England its continued drift towards the rocks of heterodoxy.
Yes, I agree.
No, there's been. I want to share an image because I've been giggling with this image for some time,
yes.
if I may.
No,
a number of our mutual friends have been writing letters saying, "Don't rock the boat when this comes out. It's a good deal. We are safe. All is well." And I was talking about this with a friend of mine, and he said, they are the new Neville Chamberlain. This is the peace in our time moment. They are walking down the steps of the aircraft, as Neville Chamberlain did when he came back from talking to Hitler, waving a little piece of paper saying, "It's all okay, guys. Mr. Hitler is not nasty. He intends no harm at all. He's going to behave. It's great." And those who are saying, "Don't rock the boat over this. It's a great deal. Nothing has changed," I think are in the same position. It's a peace in our time moment. The fact is that the Church is moving inexorably towards the affirmation of gay sexual relationships, to the extent that the Bishop of Norwich, who wrote the preface, said, when we last talked about this theologically in 1991, issues of sexuality, we didn't even understand gay marriage. My word, we do now. How far we've come, how far we're going to go. It's all about trajectory and process. And essentially what he's saying is, the Church of England is making up its theology on the hoof in relationship to culture and will travel whatever direction culture tells it to. Well, that's a betrayal of Christian faith.
It is, because it's very important that we do understand the culture. There's truth in that.
Sure.
It's not your job to reflect that culture.
Absolutely right. You have to reach out into the culture. You do have to make accommodation. Mm-hmm. As you say, we have to understand it. Mm-hmm. We have to sympathize with it. Mm-hmm. But we have to have the gift of discernment. Mm-hmm. The gift of discernment in the Scriptures is one of the most precious things the Holy Spirit brings. What's really going on here? So what I hope is that faithful Anglicans who look to the Scriptures for their authority and look to the teaching of Jesus to tell them how to model the Church will say to themselves, what's going on here? And the answer is, we are being cooked, slowly but surely. And I think different people will choose different moments to get out of the frying pan. Mm-hmm. But they just turn the heat up a little bit more subtly with this report. As you quite rightly said at the beginning, 60 pages tell us not very much, but to change the pastoral atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's back up a second. I was at GAFCON 2. You were at GAFCON 2. Yeah. One of the two big things GAFCON 2 said. One of them was, we're going to go into England. We're going to take the motherland. Has there been any? You're there. I don't know any of this. Yeah. Has there been any inroads with GAFCON?
Faithful Anglicans in England are waiting for two things. Okay. We're waiting for the return of our Lord Jesus Christ, and we're waiting for GAFCON bishops to come to our aid with an alternative jurisdiction. We wait in hope faithfully for both. We hope that the GAFCON bishops will get here before Jesus does.
Well, I've heard Scotland is very eager, and that different places in Europe. In Britain are at different places in how they feel about the Church of England.
I don't want to make too light of this because it really is a very serious issue. And actually, frankly, it's a question of discernment again. The archbishops of the Anglican Communion have to decide at what point Welby has gone too far. Mm-hmm. You, in your interviews, have already documented the way in which his public and private behavior are at odds with each other. The trust evaporates as the months go by, as this gap between public and private behavior widens. I understand it would be very embarrassing for archbishops of one jurisdiction to say, actually, you've now gone too far. Of course, Welby's policy God bless him, I understand it, is to rock the boat as little as possible so as to not give that Rubicon moment when the other archbishops say, okay, now we have to go and rescue the faithful. I hope the archbishops will see that actually the moment is here in perpetuity. We're already there. And the question is, what I think also is going on is that there is an attitude that the longer nothing can happen, the more ordinary people will accommodate themselves to secular culture. We already know that all our kids under 40 have been so brainwashed by egalitarianism, inclusivity, and sexual diversity that they find it very hard indeed to step outside the societal norms that have been imposed on them by our education system. And the fact is that as time goes by, people will accommodate themselves more and more. They don't want to be embarrassed. They want to be nice and loving. So time is on the side of those of the heretics, and that's what this document brought. It brought a great wodge of time. I hope that the faithful archbishops will see that this is a process that runs counter to the priorities of the kingdom of heaven. It's the opposite of what Welby claims, and I hope very much that some kind of alternative jurisdiction can be offered to people who want Orthodox bishops to look to in order to remain Anglicans.
Gavin, I want to thank you again for your time, and we'll be talking to you soon. And don't spend too much time reading these reports. I'm Kevin Carlson, and I've been with Gavin Ashington. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Boom, that worked really well. I don't know what that beatitude thing was I was doing.
Yeah.